What if the most powerful man who ever lived was also his own worst enemy? He could tear a lion apart with his bare hands. He killed 1,000 soldiers with nothing but a bone. He could snap ropes like they were made of paper. But one woman, one secret, one moment of weakness, and everything was gone. His eyes gouged out. His body in chains. His gift reduced to grinding grain in a prison like an animal. This is the story of Samson, the man God anointed before he was even born, who spent his whole life fighting everyone except the one enemy he could never defeat: himself. The book of Judges contains some of the most raw, unfiltered, and honestly uncomfortable stories in the entire Bible. And Samson's story sits right at the top of that list. This is not a clean, inspirational story with a perfect ending. This is a story about genius and stupidity living in the same body. About supernatural gifting and deeply human weakness existing side by side. About a man who had everything God could give a person, and still managed to throw most of it away. But here is why this story matters for your life today. Because most of us are not dealing with Philistine armies. We are dealing with our own Delilahs. Our own blind spots. Our own patterns that keep costing us everything. And Samson's story is a mirror. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to see yourself in this story in a way you did not expect. Samson's story begins before he takes his first breath. His mother could not have children. She had lived with that pain for years. And then one day an angel of the Lord appears to her with a message that changes everything. You will conceive and give birth to a son. But this child is set apart. He is to be a Nazirite from birth, consecrated completely to God. No razor is ever to touch his head. No wine, no strong drink. And this son will begin to deliver Israel from the Philistines who have been crushing them under oppression for 40 years. Think about that for a moment. Before Samson ever opens his eyes, his purpose is already written. His assignment is already clear. He is not an accident. He is not just another person born into difficult circumstances. He is specifically designed, specifically prepared, and specifically sent for a specific moment in history. Lesson 1: You were not born by accident. Just like Samson, your life has a purpose that was established before you fully understood it. The question is not whether you have a calling. The question is whether you will honor it. Samson grows up and the Spirit of God begins to stir in him. Everyone can see there is something different about this man. And then almost immediately we see the crack in the foundation that will eventually bring everything down. Samson goes to a Philistine town called Timnah and sees a Philistine woman. He comes straight home and tells his parents, "I want her. Get her for me. She is the right one." His parents are troubled. They ask him, "Is there no woman among our own people? Why would you go to the uncircumcised Philistines for a wife?" And Samson's response tells you everything you need to know about who he is at this point in his life. He says, "She looks good to me. Get her." That's it. No prayer. No counsel. No discernment. She looks good. Get her. Now the Bible does tell us that God was working within this situation, using it to create a confrontation with the Philistines. But Samson himself is not operating from divine strategy. He is operating from desire. He is choosing with his eyes. And this is the pattern that will follow him like a shadow all the way to the worst moment of his life. Lesson 2: Attraction is not discernment. Just because something looks good does not mean it is good for you. Samson made every major decision in his life based on what he saw and what he felt, and every single one of those decisions cost him something. Learning to pause between desire and decision might be one of the most important skills you ever develop. On the way to Timnah, something extraordinary happens. A young lion comes roaring toward Samson out of nowhere. And the Spirit of the Lord rushes on him powerfully. He grabs the lion with his bare hands and tears it apart like it was a young goat. No weapon. No help. Just his hands and the power of God flowing through him. And then he tells nobody. He just moves on like nothing happened. Later he passes the carcass again and finds that bees have built a honeycomb inside it. He scoops out honey and eats it on the way home, sharing some with his parents without telling them where it came from. This detail matters. Samson carries supernatural power very casually, almost carelessly. He is not in awe of what God has placed inside him. He is not steward of it. It is just something he has. Like a person who was born into enormous wealth and never learned to appreciate or manage it because it was always just there. Lesson 3. Never become casual with what God has given you. Gifts that are taken for granted are gifts that get misused. Samson never developed a relationship with the God who gave him his strength. He just used the strength. And there is a massive difference between using a gift and stewarding it. At the wedding feast, Samson poses a riddle to 30 Philistine men. If you solve it in 7 days, I'll give you 30 sets of fine clothing. If you can't, you give me 30 sets. The riddle is based on the lion and the honey. Out of the eater came something to eat, out of the strong came something sweet. The men cannot figure it out. So they go to Samson's wife and threaten her. Get the answer or we will burn your father's house down with fire. She comes to Samson weeping. You don't love me. You hate me. You've given my people a riddle and haven't told me the answer. He holds out for days. But she keeps pressing and crying. And on the 7th day he tells her. She immediately tells the men. When they give him the answer, Samson knows exactly what happened. He looks at them and says, if you had not plowed with my heifer you would not have solved my riddle. He is furious. The Spirit of the Lord comes on him, he goes to another town, kills 30 men, takes their clothing, pays his debt, and storms away. His wife is then given to his best man. Here is what we need to see in this moment. Samson's weakness for the women he loved was already being used as a weapon against him. And he saw it. He knew what happened. And he still did not change the pattern. Lesson 4. If you keep getting hurt in the same way, the problem might not be the people around you. It might be the pattern inside you. Samson recognized that his wife had betrayed him. But he never stopped to ask why he kept choosing people who would. Self-awareness without self-correction is just pain with a label on it. Some time later Samson goes back to reconcile with his wife, only to discover she has been given to another man. He is enraged. And what does he do? He catches 300 foxes, ties them in pairs by their tails, attaches a burning torch between each pair of tails, and releases them into the Philistine grain fields. 300 foxes running in every direction with fire. The fields are destroyed. The vineyards. The olive groves. Everything. The Philistines retaliate by burning his wife and her father. Samson attacks them savagely in return. And the cycle of violence escalates. Now notice something here. Samson is incredibly powerful. But he is almost entirely reactive. Something happens to him and he explodes. Someone crosses him and he destroys everything in reach. He never pauses. He never strategizes. He never leads. He just reacts, massively, destructively, and often in ways that create more problems than they solve. Lesson 5. Unbridled strength without self-control is just destruction with good intentions. Power without discipline will always create collateral damage. The people around Samson kept getting hurt not just by his enemies but by his own uncontrolled reactions. Your strength can hurt the people you love if you never learn to govern it. After hiding in a cave, the men of Judah come to Samson. The Philistines have entered their territory looking for him and they are afraid. They ask Samson to let them bind him and hand him over. He agrees on one condition, that they don't kill him themselves. They bind him with 2 new ropes and bring him to the Philistines. The enemy comes shouting toward him. And the Spirit of the Lord rushes on Samson powerfully. He snaps the new ropes like burned thread. He looks down and sees the jawbone of a donkey lying on the ground. He picks it up. And with that one bone he strikes down 1,000 men. 1,000 soldiers. One man. One bone. After the battle he is desperately thirsty and cries out to God. And this is one of the rare moments we see something genuine in Samson. He acknowledges that God gave him this victory. He prays honestly. And God opens a spring of water from the ground and Samson drinks and his strength is restored. This moment shows us who Samson could have been if he had walked more consistently with God. The potential was staggering. The calling was real. The anointing was undeniable. But it kept showing up in flashes rather than as a consistent, surrendered life. Lesson 6. Occasional greatness is not the same as consistent character. Samson had moments of extraordinary power and genuine dependence on God. But they were moments, not a lifestyle. God is not looking for people who show up for him occasionally. He is looking for people who walk with him daily. And now we arrive at the moment everyone knows. Samson falls in love with a woman named Delilah. The Philistine rulers see their opportunity. Each of them offers Delilah 1,100 pieces of silver, a fortune, if she can find out the secret of his strength. Delilah doesn't waste any time. She goes straight to Samson. Tell me the secret of your great strength. How could someone tie you up and overpower you? And here is where this story becomes genuinely painful to watch. Because Samson does not run. He does not leave. He does not confront her. He plays a game with her instead. He tells her the first lie, bind me with 7 fresh bowstrings and I'll be as weak as any other man. She does it while he sleeps. She calls out that the Philistines are upon him. He snaps the bowstrings like thread. She exposes herself immediately. She is working with his enemies. It is obvious. And he stays. He gives her a second lie. Then a third. Each time she tries to capture him. Each time he breaks free. Each time she shows her hand completely. And each time, he stays. This is not naivety. Samson was not stupid. He knew exactly what Delilah was doing. He was choosing to stay anyway. Because the love, or what he thought was love, was stronger than his wisdom. The comfort of her presence was stronger than the warning in his spirit. Then she shifts tactics. She stops asking. She starts pressing emotionally. Day after day she nags him and presses him until he is sick to death of it. You don't really love me. If you loved me you would tell me. And slowly, painfully, the strongest man in the world is worn down not by an army, but by emotional pressure. And he tells her everything. He is a Nazirite. His hair has never been cut. If his head is shaved his strength will leave him. Delilah sends word to the rulers. They come with the silver. She lulls Samson to sleep on her lap. A man comes and shaves his head. She calls out, Samson, the Philistines are upon you. He wakes up. He thinks he will shake himself free as before. He does not know that the Lord has departed from him. Stop right there. Read that line again. He did not know that the Lord had left him. He woke up and tried to operate in a power that was no longer there. He assumed that because the gift had always been available before, it would always be available now. He found out in the worst possible way that you can exhaust the grace on a gift you have refused to honor. Lesson 7. You can lose the presence of God and not realize it immediately. Samson woke up the same as always, confident, assuming, ready to fight. And the power was gone. This is one of the most terrifying warnings in all of Scripture. Drift from God can be so gradual that you don't notice it until the moment you desperately need what you no longer have. The Philistines see Samson. They gouge out his eyes. The man who spent his entire life choosing with his eyes, loses them. They bind him with bronze shackles and take him to Gaza. And this man who was anointed before birth, who tore lions apart, who killed 1,000 men with a bone, ends up blind, chained, and grinding grain in a prison. The most powerful man in the world reduced to slave labor. There is something deeply symbolic about this image. Samson's greatest strength was always physical. And now he is physically broken. The very thing he trusted most has been taken from him. He is left with nothing but darkness, chains, and the memory of what he threw away. But here is what the text quietly slips in almost without comment. While Samson is in prison, his hair begins to grow back. God is not done. Lesson 8. Your lowest point is not your last point. The prison is not the end of the story. The hair grows back. Grace is still at work even when you cannot see it, even when you are in chains, even when you brought the chains on yourself. It is never too late to return. The Philistine rulers gather for a massive celebration to honor their god Dagon. Thousands of people fill a great building. They are feasting, they are celebrating, and they bring Samson out to perform and mock him. 3,000 people on the roof alone. Samson asks the servant leading him to position him between the two central pillars of the building. He needs to lean against them to rest. And then he prays. It is one of the most raw and desperate prayers in the entire Bible. He does not pray a polished prayer. He does not quote scripture. He simply says, God, remember me. Strengthen me just one more time. Let me take revenge for my 2 eyes. It is not a perfect prayer. It is not even a selfless prayer. He is asking for strength so he can have revenge. But God hears it. Because underneath all of Samson's failures, underneath all the wasted years and bad decisions and broken patterns, there is still a man crying out to the God who made him. Samson places one hand on each of the 2 central pillars. He braces himself. And he says, let me die with the Philistines. He pushes with everything he has. And the pillars give way. The entire building collapses. The rulers, the thousands of people, everyone inside, gone. And Samson dies in the rubble. The Bible records that those he killed at his death were more than those he killed in his entire life. His greatest victory came in his most broken moment. When he was blind. When he was chained. When he had nothing left. His final act of surrender produced more fruit than every act of strength that came before it. Lesson 9. Sometimes your greatest impact comes not from your strength but from your surrender. Samson spent his life fighting in his own power, on his own terms, for his own reasons. And at the very end, blind, broken, and with nothing left to prove, he finally let go. And it was the most powerful moment of his life. So what does the story of Samson teach us? It teaches us that a gift without discipline is a disaster waiting to happen. Samson had more raw ability than almost anyone in the Bible and wasted decades of it because he never learned to govern himself. It teaches us that attraction is not discernment. Choosing with your eyes and your feelings without wisdom and prayer is one of the most expensive habits a person can have. It teaches us that patterns don't break themselves. Samson saw the betrayal coming every single time and walked into it anyway. Awareness without action is just slow destruction. It teaches us that you can drift from God so gradually that you don't notice until it's too late. The most chilling line in this entire story is not when Samson is captured. It is when he wakes up assuming the power is still there, and it isn't. It teaches us that your lowest moment is not your final moment. The hair grows back. Grace keeps working even when you have stopped deserving it. And it teaches us that surrender is more powerful than strength. Samson's greatest victory did not come when he was at his peak. It came when he was broken, blind, and finally, completely dependent on God. The question Samson's story asks each one of us is simple and uncomfortable. What are you still trying to do in your own strength that God has been waiting for you to surrender? If this video hit something in you today, share it. Someone in your circle needs to hear this story right now. And if you want to keep going deeper into the stories of the Bible that still speak directly to real life, subscribe because we have so much more coming your way. I will see you in the next one.